Welcome everyone, I've been using iPad Pros ever since summer 2020 with the 2018 model. I currently have the M1 model, so I have a pretty darn good knowledge with this iPad Pro. I've used it for everything: note-taking, video editing, gaming, content consumption, everything, even taking photos, and I'm going to go through all of it. So first of all, the design itself. The new iPad Pros, you have the equal bezel design. It looks extremely modern. The 2018 model has the same design. I don't think it's going to be changing anytime soon. It's a beautiful design. There is no home button, but you just navigate with swipe gestures. Now on the back, depending on the iPad Pro you buy, it'll be slightly different. So you have the same, general, be aluminium on the back. I do have a case, of course. The camera layout, you're either going to have two cameras with iPad Pro 2020 or later, or one camera with iPad Pro 2018. You have the flash, which is on all iPad Pro models, and iPad Pro 2020 or later does have the LiDAR sensor. Now, when it comes to the cameras, I'm going to be blunt here. I only use them for document scanning. It gets the job done, okay? I don't know why they put an ultra wide in, but it gets the job done at the end of the day. It's the same cameras that you're going to see in the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS, so it's decent. But just keep in mind, if you have ever used or you currently use iPhone 11 series or newer, you may notice your photos always look good. That's because they have this feature called Deep Fusion. And what that will do is it will use AI to make your photos look good. iPad Pro, even though it has M1 or A12X, whatever you get, it does not have Deep Fusion. So your photos, you have to make sure they're fully in focus, because if they're not in focus, the final result will not look in focus. Okay, so the display, very high quality, 120 Hz. They introduced that with the 2017 iPad Pro. It's 2017 one's too old, just get 2018 or later. So beautiful display. You can turn this off if you do want to save battery life to 120 Hz, but I do recommend you keep it on. You also have 8 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of RAM on M1 series. I got the 16 gigs of RAM iPad Pro just for the max thing. However, keep in mind, each application are limited to maximum 6 gigs of RAM, so you can really live with 4 gigs of RAM if you do get the 2018 iPad Pro. But if you want long-lasting iPad Pro, I recommend you go for the 8 gig or 16 gig, which is available in the 1 TB models. Okay, let's talk about actually using the iPad Pro, because that's the spec sheet. How is it actually? So first of all, gaming. This is what I use this for most. I use it for Call of Duty Mobile and Critical Ops recently for some reason, and Grid Autosport. And 120 Hz makes things beautiful, okay? All these three games support 120 FPS. Gaming at 120 FPS is so good. There's no ghosting issues you'd see on like lower quality laptop displays. Very strong display on iPad Pro. Great experience while gaming. The one downside though is, regardless of the iPad Pro you get, they heavily limit the graphic options with the frame rate. So on Call of Duty Mobile, I can only run at medium 120 FPS. You could say, well, maybe the iPad Pro doesn't support it. The facts are though, the iPad Pro 2018, which is like half as fast, also gets medium at 120 FPS. Now if you're thinking, okay, so both iPad Pros get a medium 120, should I get the 2018? Well, at the end of the day, the M1 is faster, so in the future you're gonna have better gaming experience by a long shot on M1 compared to 2018. But right now, you're really gonna be able to use 2018 for like 5 years, something like that. It was way ahead of its time, and it still kind of is to some extent. So gaming, excellent experience. I will say though, I've used 11-inch, 12.9-inch. I do prefer gaming on 11-inch iPad Pro, so keep that in mind. Now media consumption, I use YouTube for that obviously, I use Netflix sometimes as well, and it's great. So you have up to 4K on iPad Pro. However, right now on the 2021 12.9-inch, that's the only iPad Pro model which gives you HDR. You know what, HDR is cool and all, but I personally prefer the 11-inch iPad Pros. I've used the 2018 for 2 years and the 11-inch for 1 year, and I just prefer the 11-inch. That's just how it is. Not hating on you if you use 12.9 inches. I just feel like this is more of a tablet. 12.9-inch, it's kind of like you're trying to replace a laptop, and I have a MacBook which is 12-inch for that, so that's just my thing personally. But 12.9-inch will give you HDR. All the 11 inches right now will give you standard definition, and it's okay. You're still really high quality. You can still watch in up to 4K. It gets the job done. Now when it comes to other stuff, note taking, I use Notability in order to note take. I have a 35-minute tutorial on how to note take on the iPad Pro, links in the description. It gets the job done very well. However, one thing is, apps aren't optimized for the high refresh rate. So you have 120 Hz, right? But if I go like here, right, I go like this, you can notice the lag. I don't know if you can see it on screen, but the actual output on the screen is a bit lagged compared to the pencil. If you do use the regular Notes app, that doesn't exist. Problem with the Notes app is that it's kind of garbage, so you don't want to use it, right? So that's the only real issue. It's not a big deal, you can still take notes, you're not going to have issues taking notes, but that's just something to keep in mind. And also in note-taking apps, the iPad will get quite hot. It gets as hot as like gaming. I don't know why, but it does. That's just something to consider. Sometimes it does get a bit uncomfortable, especially if it's a hot day of summer, but it's not to the point where you can't use the iPad Pro. It's not a MacBook where, you know, oh my god, you can't put it on your lap, you know, so it's still decent, right? I mean, everything when it comes to iPad Pro, it's decent. The only real issue though is stuff like, you know, video editing. So I used to edit videos on the iPad Pro using an app called Pinnacle Pro. It gets the job done. If you're doing basic cuts and stuff, you can use the iPad Pro for video editing. Lumafusion exists. People think, oh my god, it's going to replace Final Cut. The problem with Lumafusion is this right here. So if I go to transitions, there's just not enough transitions. First of all, you can't make custom transitions. There's no real like proper effects, stuff like that. So it's very limited. It's like Final Cut Lite, to be honest. That's what it should have been called. Of course, you know, copyright issues, but if you're doing basic cuts, stuff like that, you'll be able to get the job done. You can have music in the background, you do basic stuff, you can add keyframes as well. I do have a dedicated video on Lumafusion, link in the description. It's like 20 minutes long, but the point is, video editing, you're not going to be replacing a laptop when you use Lumafusion, whether you like it or not. So overall, is the iPad Pro worth it? Yeah, because I mean, I have it. I mean, 100%. I really like this, mainly for mobile gaming. This is the best mobile gaming device to ever exist, and it will stay like that for a very long time. This is powerful, more powerful than any Android which exists to date. Just keep that in mind. A very powerful device, runs well, no issues with thermal throttling. It's a beautiful iPad. Now, is it worth the price though? Well, that's up to you, because iPad Air also has M1 chip, same as the M1 iPad Pro, will cost half the price. The main difference is it has thicker bezels, no Face ID, stuff like that. And I didn't touch about such Face ID, it just works. That's why it just works. It's beautiful. Don't even need to cover it that much. You know, that's the thing. Do you want to get iPad Pro or iPad Air? It really depends, up to you. If you're mobile gaming, I would get the Pro because of the higher refresh. If you're doing basic stuff like watching video editing, basic stuff, then you really don't need 120 Hz. Unless you've seen 120 Hz before, then you definitely want to get the iPad Pro. So yeah, I enjoy my iPad Pro personally. It's a great iPad. I think you'll enjoy it as well. And with that being said, thanks for watching. See you guys later. Bye bye.